Hi, welcome y'all. Glad to see y'all here. Glad to see that y'all was able to make it to Sunday's team class as we're trying to imply our social distancing. I hope y'all having a wonderful time, being alone or with family. I know it can be tough sometimes, but I still love you. The church still loves you. And I'm going to just dive right into the lesson that we have today. Anyways, in our lesson today, we're going to take a look at Jesus' call at his disciples, the trust that was required to follow him. But before I get into the grits and bits of all that, I'm going to tell y'all another story that required a lot of trust. It involved a French man named Charles Blondin during the 1850s, who was well known for his daring feats of bravery, in particular of tightrope walking. He was most well known for being the first man to tightrope across the Niagara Falls. But knowing him, he didn't do it just one time. This man did it several times, and each time he did it, he increased the difficulty and the scary factor of doing it. He crossed it blindfolded. He did it on stilts. He even did it and sat down halfway, made himself an omelet, and it kept going. He made himself an omelet, bro. Omelets are good. I don't know how good it was. He was sitting there on a tightrope, but he made himself an omelet. That's pretty impressive, I would like to think. Another time, Blondin decided that he was going to push a wheelbarrow across the falls. After stretching the rope across the falls, he proceeded to take the wheelbarrow and wheel it across the tightrope that was no more than an inch in diameter. When he made it to the other side, he got greeted by the crowd. Hey, he did it, yeah! And he asked, hey, you think I can do it again? And they was like, yeah. So he's like, all right. So he did it again. He took the wheelbarrow and pushed it across the fall again. And then he went to the crowd and was like, hey, think I can do it again? And they was like, yeah. So he's like, all right. But this time, can I get a volunteer to ride in the wheelbarrow? And then it was like, it was silence. No one was brave enough to join him. And that leads to the question of whether or not they actually believed that he could do it. And honestly, I think they believed that. I think the real problem was that they enjoyed watching his adventures. But they did not want to take part in any of the risks of the adventures. And that is a great place to start our series of living life of adventure and faith with Jesus. Throughout this series, we're going to be exploring what it's like to live a life of faith and adventure by examining some of the great adventures of the disciples. In particular, today we're going to be looking at Peter. In some stories, Peter is a lot like Mr. Blondin, daring, adventurous in his pursuit of Jesus, like walking on water and seeing the transfiguration. But in some stories, Peter is just like the crowd, standing on the sidelines, in awe of the adventurous feats and skills, but afraid to step onto the tightrope. Or in one case, Peter was even scared into saying he didn't even know who Jesus was. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I think if we all truly look at ourselves, we can see that we're a lot like Peter. Sometimes we have the faith to step onto whatever is across from our path on that tightrope. And other times, we let fear and anxiety keep us on the sidelines, away from the adventure. It is true, Jesus is calling us and inviting us into his adventurous life of following him. That's great, you may say. But the question in most people's mind is, well, what am I going to be doing in that calling? Like, what is my calling? Where is it going to be? Well, he may call you across the globe, or he may call you across the street. But no matter where he calls you, it's going to be an adventure of a lifetime. Webster's dictionary definition of adventure is exciting or dangerous experience. Regardless of what you do in your life, we can find adventure and faith in our faith of Jesus. In fact, I believe it is our responsibility as Christians to look for adventure in our faith, regardless of what our vocational calling is. You see, God made us to be adventurous. He made us to try new things. And I think if you search deep into your soul, you will find that desire of adventure. That's why we love movies, roller coasters, haunted houses, great stories. In the story of calling the disciples, one of the first things that you should notice is that each of them was ready of that adventure of following Jesus. They dropped everything to follow him. If you have a Bible, please go to Matthew 4:18-22. That's what I'm about to read. Okay? Keep this in mind. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father, preparing the nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father to follow him. Peter, Andrew, James, John, they were ready. They dropped everything to follow Jesus. No questions asked. But it's also important to note that when Jesus said, come, follow me, his tone was more of a command than an invitation. He told them to come and follow him, and he will make them fisher of men. Jesus was telling them that he had a job for them. It was time to get to it. I want to take a quick minute on the phrase, fisher of men. The popular conscience is that Jesus was using that phrase because these men were fishermen, which I think was partially true. But remember, Matthew is full of references to the Old Testament. The phrase fisher of men is also a reference in the Old Testament, in particular in Jeremiah 16, verses 16-17, which says, but now I will send for many fishermen, declare the Lord, and they will catch them. And after that I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt them down on every mountain, in the hills, and in crevices of the rocks. My eyes are all their ways. They are not hidden from me, nor is their sin concealed from my eyes. Even though these fishermen may have not been well educated, they likely had a decent amount of knowledge of the Old Testament. So they would have been familiar with the reference that Jesus was using from Jeremiah. Jesus not only putting his call into their vocabulary, but he's also calling them to the important task of bringing people to God. Next, we move on to James and John, who were also fishermen. James and John were with their father Zebedee, carrying on the family business of fishing, right? And that's when Jesus saw them cleaning out their nets. The real translation of that is they were repairing the nets, probably after a night of fishing. Dropping their nets and leaving them behind was not only symbolical, it was literally leaving everything. They were leaving their lives. They was also leaving their father. I don't know about you, but if I left my dad and doing whatever work we was doing and just left, I don't think that would go so well. And we don't know, in that case, we don't know about James and John. But what we do see is that Jesus called them to follow him, and they dropped everything and did as he said. But here's the thing. Jesus is calling us. Jesus is calling us to leave everything like Peter, Andrew, James, and John. He doesn't necessarily call us to leave our family business and put the entire weight on them. No. But he is calling us to do the same. Jesus called to live a life of faithful adventures. It may not look how it did back then, but it does not mean that there isn't any risk or uncertainty in what Jesus calls us to do. Perhaps Jesus is calling you to share your faith with a friend, go on a mission trip, or volunteer your time to help others that may be less fortunate than you. There is risk involved in anything and all those things. There's a risk involved in everything you do in life. but we're always ain't the most accurate when it comes to seeing and risking things. For example, driving a car is one of the most dangerous things that we all do. Yet, we do it every single day. We don't think about it because we have faith that we're going to get from point A to point B. Did you know that driving without letting the fear of what can happen keep you from doing it is called faith? The Bible defines faith in Hebrews 11 verse 1. Faith is to be sure of things we hope for, to be certain of the things we cannot see. That faith is the lesson I want us to take from the disciples today. The disciples had faith. They hoped in Jesus and they were certain of things they could not see. Most of us will probably never be asked to do something to the grand extent that they was asked to do. But that's not the point. The point is that we have to have the kind of faith that says God is ultimately in control of our lives. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had this phrase, has this saying. He once said, faith is like taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. I think the staircase is a good metaphor for life, because if there was a staircase, it always leads somewhere, even when you cannot see where that somewhere is. Faith is taking those steps into the unknown, onto an invisible path, giving up control to God instead of trying to keep it to yourself. Faith is trusting that God will reveal our path for us. Jesus invites us to follow him on the path. He invites us to follow him on an adventure that may or may not be filled with risk and uncertainty. But if we do so with faith that God is in control, we'll be all right. We'll be all right because, as Romans 8:31 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? So today I ask you, what adventure is God calling you? What adventure is God calling you today? Bill Kane, the creator of the comic strip Family Circus, has a well-known quote that goes like this: yesterday is the past, tomorrow is the future, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. I know, but Bill is right. Each day we have is the present, and it's a gift. Every day we wake up and we get to decide what we would do with our gift of today. So I ask you, what will you do for your gift of today? Or what adventure will you follow Jesus for? What will you do in order to take that extra step out into the unknown and have complete faith in God that he calls you to do what he calls you to do? He's just waiting for you to say, let's go.